You're going to notice that these videos are pretty heavy on the termites and the ants, and there's a good reason for that. I've been obsessed with social insects since I was a small child. My father got me a beehive when I was 9 years old, and I just absolutely loved watching them work together and build this honeycomb and this big structure, and they're just insects doing this, and it was just fascinating. So if you'll come with me back to your high school biology class, we learned that taxonomy, all animals and plants and all life fit into these categories. And the categories are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. There's an order called Hymenoptera, which is the bees, wasps, and the ants. And within that order is a family called the Apidae, and that's what I want to talk about today. Some characteristics of the Apidae is that they build things out of wax. A lot of other bees don't do that. They find mud or they find other things to build with. It includes the bumblebees, which are adorable, the honeybees, which are very important, and the orchid bees and the stingless bees of South America. And that is specifically what I want to talk about today, are these stingless bees. Okay, now here's a group of stingless bees, and they're usually referred to in English as fairy bees, but they're fairly common in Central and South America. They're called fairy bees because if you look closely at them, they look like these little fairies, and they fly almost silently. They're very small, they fly silently, and they sort of drift and hover around, and they look like fairies. But these guys are really good at nest building. I've seen a lot of nests, internal nests of stingless bees, but not this group. I've never actually even been able to extract it and look at it because they build their nests inside these cavities, and usually they're completely enclosed inside of there. Some species even build their nests inside of termite nests, and the idea is to protect themselves. And they have these elaborate nest entrances that are very common. You'll see it's this wax tube that comes out and usually has a little bit of a framing around the outside of it that looks interesting. So like a lot of the other Apidae, these guys make wax and they make honey. And they actually produce their honey and they store it in these bizarre looking structures inside of their nest. If you look at them, it's a lot like a bumblebee nest. They have their honey in these pots, and when they seal these pots up, they look sort of like an amorphous blob. There's nothing organized like a honeybee that you would see there. They make honey, like I said, and the honey is actually harvested by people that live near these bees. It does have a little bit of a high moisture content, so it kind of ferments pretty quickly. But it is perfectly good honey, and I've tasted it. It tastes just like honey, the honey that comes from honeybees. So these are called stingless bees for a good reason. They have lost their stinger, interestingly enough, and what it seems like an evolutionary snafu, but for some reason, evolution decided that they actually did not need their stingers anymore, and they can defend their nest in other ways. They're actually pretty tenacious, and these bees will protect their hive. If you mess with their hive, they'll protect it by biting, and they like to bite your eyelids. They like to bite your nose. They'll get in, and another thing that they do, which is just absolutely hilarious, is that they pull hair. So they'll land on you and just find a hair and yank on it. And it might seem silly, but it is kind of unnerving to have 20 or 30, 100 bees all standing on you and pulling hair.
What we don't know.
For the what we don't know section, I want to talk a little bit about honeybees. Now, we call honeybees a domestic species, but they're actually not a domestic species. They've existed as they are long before people started collecting honey from them. But what we did is figured out a great way to manage these hives, and we've figured out how to trick honeybees into thinking their hive is smaller than it actually is, and thus they make more honey than they need. And economies of scale, they just make a lot more honey, and that's our honey. That's what we get. The bees keep enough honey to keep them alive and going, but we have their honey. Now, a lot of people have been trying over the years, and some people have had a little bit of success here and there of managing these stingless bees. There's a number of species of them, and it's probably management is going to be completely different compared to each other. But people are trying to figure out how to manage these bees. So I'd like to dedicate the rest of this video to grainy, shaky footage of me trying to get attacked by stingless bees.